Mark, hello. Colin, hello. It's a joy to have you both on the screen so early on a Monday morning. It's a thrill. Mark Barnes, as everybody knows, is a merchant banker. Colin Coleman used to be a merchant banker. We have more merchant bankers than we can deal with in one morning. And you used to work together, which is just fantastic. So you know each other and love each other dearly. So now,
Tom, let's get on to the show, Tim. Okay, it's enough really.
All right. So what I said to Colin was that we would discuss the most exciting thing that's happened over the weekend, which is the ANC's election manifesto. Colin, you've obviously read the document.
Come on, the
It's
All
only
Blacks
65
victory
pages.
over South Africa was much more interesting than that.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
I mean,
Okay.
let's talk about that, Tim. Let's start there. You know, the Springboks.
No.
I was there. I watched it. It was so depressing. I mean, so overdue and so depressing in a funny way. I mean, our mistakes and missed opportunities were just no match for their determined common purpose. And the Bokke are our high point. They are our Rainbow Nation manifestation. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And Mark, they have so much talent, don't they? I mean, so isn't that South Africa? So much talent, missed opportunities, and
Exactly.
big defeat.
It's exactly like
a big
the
defeat.
ANC
They
manifesto.
snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah, no, it was. We were dominant, but we couldn't score. I mean, I don't know if they didn't get the memo, because every 5 minutes the water people came on to give them a message from the coach, because I can't believe they're all that thirsty. Every time some oak had to do his shoelace up, we had 4 water balls on and with radios and shit. Anyway,
I knew this would be fun.
What it does, the only upside is it makes Cape Town more exciting, and we now have purpose, because we were floating around on the top. By the way, they've ousted us. They're number one now. That victory pushed them ahead of us as the number one side in the world rankings. Anyway, do we have to talk about it?
I mean, it shows that how when you think that you're on top, actually you're not, and you've got to keep doing it, which is a lesson that we could all learn. I'm just sprouting here. Sorry, I'm trying to pretend that I know what.
But Tim, if we take the rugby analogy for your other topic for the weekend of the municipal elections and the ANC. I mean, if we think of 1995, the Rainbow Nation, Nelson Mandela wearing the shirt and the box, piercing the goals through the last minute, where we have come from, as a family that's come from ANC traditions, as you know, for a long period, we don't have a charterist tradition in the country anymore. The ANC we grew up with was a charterist ANC, non-racial social democratic. Where was the non-racial social democratic manifesto of the ANC? Where was the cast of non-racial characters announced amongst the ANC people this weekend? We have so much promise in our rugby, so much promise, and who knows, we might come back and steal the series. But we've put ourselves in a bad position. And it feels like 30 years later, we've put ourselves in a bad position. We don't have a social democratic, non-racial political party in the center. And many people, I would put it at like as many as 5 million, maybe 25% of the country, feel that they don't have a political party they can support.
Yeah. It doesn't really take things much further. I did actually go through the manifesto. I know that you guys studied it in detail and were likely to.
100%.
So I just felt that I should do my homework. And I can tell you, there is a lot there that does not change. There is a lot there that is, basically it's the developmental state with a slightly more managerial edge. That's all you can say about that.
Yeah, but Tim, you know what worries me most about this? It's electioneering time for all parties, mind you, not just for the ANC. And I don't know whether it's what the combination is between lies and ignorance, because some of the promises are just manifestly beyond achievement. Okay. I see the ANC now has promised a 30% reduction in municipal debt in 5 years' time. Have you looked at the numbers? I mean, you'll be with me here on this column, because if you look at the turnover in Joburg of 90 billion and you look at the deficit of 300 billion, I don't even know which numbers are real anymore. It's not mathematically, financially possible to trade out of it. Okay, so we need a control alternative. We need a reset in order to plan a future. If you were standing up, Colin, to take the job as mayor, as CEO of Joburg, you'd go, "Can I see the numbers, but can you verify the fair market value of all of our contractual liabilities and all the missing money?" And you'd struggle to put together a rescue strategy, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think, Tim, my view is when you read any manifesto, but that ANC manifesto in particular, given their role in the last 30 years in Johannesburg, in particular, I live in Johannesburg, the thing that comes to mind is credibility of promise, right? Is it credible that having governed the Joburg and its very precipitous decline, that is extremely visible to anybody who lives here, is it credible that we're going to achieve any of those numbers that Mark has talked about, a 30% decline or cut in the municipal debt, an improvement in services, water, electricity? I mean, this city is in so much crisis that it needs a management crisis intervention to turn it around. And it's not going to come from political parties, as far as I can see it. The local government election is going to determine who's going to lead it, but it's going to have some emergency management solutions. And I don't happen to think that local government is actually about political party ideology or manifestos or anything like that. It's all about delivery, which is all about basically running a business in an efficient way. And so people should choose the party that's going to most efficiently turn Joburg around and deliver water, sanitation, fix the potholes, and so on. And that is the key problem: is what is the credibility of promises right now?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah,
I mean,
the question
there's
is
a lot
not.
of delusionalism. I mean, that's the problem with this.
That's a big word, Tim, for a
you,
Monday. Delusionalism, eh? I mean, is that a
That's
word?
right, and I pronounced it so brilliantly as well.
Yeah.
But no, it's a sort of general problem with local government. I don't know whether you read this this report, and I'm still stunned by it. That 30% of councils have unfunded budgets. I mean, how do you do that? How do you pass a budget in
Tim,
which you cannot sort of justify the the deficit? It's just
they're going to have
mind-boggling that you should even do that.
Tim, they're going to have to rearrange the pieces. They're going to have to get some of the municipalities, going beyond Joburg now, we've talked about it a bit. They're going to get some of the municipalities that are dysfunctional to somehow economically and financially merge with others that aren't, until you've got a critical mass of municipalities, not necessarily defined politically or by province, say, until you've got these functional economic units which are capable of a sustainable future. Okay, and I think that there's a complete rewrite required for this. But the real point, Colin, that you make, I mean, yeah, well, I know they're not going to do that, but they also, here's the point. It's not about electing the right party. It's about electing the right party that has the foresight and humility to appoint experts to do the job beyond their cadres. Because I haven't found a party in South Africa that's not guilty of cadre deployment. I'm fascinated by the new acting Minister of Health. It doesn't seem to me that you have to have any expertise in the field in which you are now the most senior government official in the country. Seriously, but.
Yeah, and Mark, there is a fit and proper test. I wonder if that appointment went to the Constitutional Court, whether it would pass. I mean, this is, to my mind, the biggest failure of the last decade. Is what you're talking about. The quality of people who are running the country in the cabinet. I mean, in Standard Bank, when we were together, 40 years ago, we were directors, like how many of us, 30 directors at Standard Bank, how many of those cabinet ministers would qualify?
Yeah.
I mean, does this make the argument for a more autocratic system? I was just thinking about the ANC not saying who its mayoral candidates are going to be. it's just incredible to me that they should promise that they're going to announce them. It just says everything. If you promise you're going to announce them, you don't announce them. You promise you will announce them next week, you don't announce them. So obviously there's a battle going on within the ANC about who should be the mayoral candidate. But political parties have been doing this for years and years and years. You know what I mean? You get a group of people together.
Can we unpack
you vote
that
on
a bit,
who the candidate should be, and that's the candidate. It's actually not that complicated.
Can we maybe unpack that a bit, because I think it goes back to also what was being said earlier, why you said it wasn't credible for Mark's suggestion that there be mergers of balance sheets that are weak to create a strong. When the common thread between these things is effectively that politics become the funnel for income for those who can't compete in a modern economy. Effectively the rate of unemployment at 44%, broad unemployment, including those looking for work, is so structurally problematic that for those who cannot compete in a global economy, in a modern economy, they basically look at the situation and say, we have to get income. If we're going to get income, politics is the funnel. Local government is the easiest funnel. And what did we get last week? We got 4 councillors or former ANC people murdered in some kind of political warfare in Knysna. It was stunning,
horrific,
and tragic, and tragic to see it. And what you basically pointing to, I think, is that when it comes to the promise that they were going to announce 8 mayoral candidates, and they came out with a list of all the candidates that were going to compete to become the mayor, it's because there's so much contestation around positions that they can't navigate it. And that is, again, the weakness of leadership. There's been no real reform. I mean, one of the things I hear often from the Ramaphosa camp is, come on, he has to choose from within the ANC camp. But my counter to that is, what has he done to fix the ANC, to manage the ANC, to reform the people who are going into the ranks? And I think there was an attempt to try and kind of go through a process for these mayoral candidates, but they failed to produce the result that they promised, which is a stunning statement of how complicated and difficult it is for the ANC internally to come to these conclusions.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. It's incredible that they haven't, in the space of 30 years, come up with a ironclad system for choosing candidates. This is where I wanted to go, because I know Mark loves the idea of a more kind of authoritarian system. Because one of the theoretical advantages of the Chinese political system is that there's no discussion about things. There is decision making, and that's pretty much it. If I was Ramaphosa, I would just I would sort of declare candidates. You know what I mean? You've got to have a process in which these are the proposals that goes to the leadership. The leadership decides who the candidates are. That's it. Is that not possible? Do you think that's too beyond the culture of the ANC?
There's too much. I think Colin nailed it. I mean, there's too much promise, in the queue. And so the next person in the queue gets the job. And it's you mean what we are doing, we continue to have our future driven by our past. Okay. And that's the fundamental error. I mean, I think we've got to go can we put a line in the sand and go, yes, we have a past, and let's carry that and let us never forget. But can we also have a future? Can we think of a future? Can we control, alternate, delete? I'm just talking finance. Beyond that, I don't have much that I can offer. When you get to a point in an enterprise that has failed, you do need an element of benevolent dictatorship. Okay, it's no longer a popularity contest; it's a survival strategy, and survival sometimes requires the strongest, most informed leader in the room to make difficult decisions that involve planting, not harvesting. And those difficult decisions don't get you votes immediately, but they do get you a life eventually. And that's the transition that I don't think we've made, okay? Because those in power now, and of course, politicians around the world that are in power are aging and in charge. Something's wrong. We need 40-year-olds.
Yes. This is true. All right, we've spoken about the local government elections. Let's talk about the other issue of the day, which is 15.99. Can you believe it? It's just great. The rand
What?
is 15.99 to the dollar. Are you not excited by that?
No, it's the dollar that's weak. But okay, let me just give you some perspective. If you look at the dollar gold price, it's not gold
Right.
price, it's dollar weakness. Okay, the dollar is weak, and it's been weakened by the manifestly misinformed geopolitical or geoeconomic stance that's been taken by the Trump administration, and so everything is being skewed. Even the war is an economic war. It's a war about tariffs and trade and all of those kinds of things. So be careful which variable you're focusing on when you choose one marker.
Colin, I mean, you know these guys, don't you? I mean, Bassett, am I pronouncing his name right? I mean, he knows the markets from way back. Why would he intervene so aggressively in the bond market? I mean, surely he knows that this is from being on the other side of the fence, he knows that this is a dead-end strategy. Why did he do that? Do you have a theory?
Well, I mean, I actually watched Paul Krugman on the weekend talking with one of the Harvard professors about the bond market issues. I mean, Mark will tell you, this is not a conventional strategy. To try and take the bond market on is normally a losing strategy. So, I think Scott Bessent and probably Kevin Walsh at the Fed are legitimately and probably credibly concerned, right, that there's a spike in yields, there's a rising capex amongst the AI companies. I mean, in and of itself, the NVIDIA off-balance sheet $500 billion funding facility that Goldman Sachs was at the center of with 6 other parties is stunning. I mean, if you think about a company borrowing $500 billion, so the view is, you've got a sort of $1 trillion per annum spending on AI capex. You've got now $4 trillion out on a GDP of 32 trillion of debt in the US. And you've got yields increasing, and the combination of the cost of the interest, the rise of interest relative to GDP, and the capex on the AI side is causing a lot of concern in the markets. So I think one has to watch this extraordinarily carefully. But that, as Mark says, is really at the center of what's going on. South Africa is a pimple on the world economy. It barely features.
No, you can't borrow. You can't borrow. By the way, there's an old rule in finance: you can't borrow money to repay debt. Okay, it doesn't really work like that. And you can't borrow a life. You have to earn a life. The cheapest source of capital is earnings, because that's what you do. Okay, we in South Africa are borrowing to fill our cash flow gaps. That is compounding the problem, not solving it. And so, I've had this argument about all of our service providers. All of the providers of input costs to the economy should not worry as much about their sustainability as the creation of growth potential in GDP. We need to earn money, not borrow money. And, and that's a universal, everyone, why do you think the banks are doing so well?
And this is the main conclusion, Tim, of these discussions, which is, as long as the U.S. economy, if you think back to the Bill Clinton era, as long as the U.S. economy is growing faster than the rate of interest is growing on debt, then the growth will outstrip the debt, and the GDP to debt ratio will fall. And that is the critical judgment the markets are going to make: is the GDP growth, productivity unlock of AI and all of these issues in the United States going to allow the U.S. growth path to effectively outpace the growth in the debt? If it does, then you'll see what you saw with the Clinton era. The debt will fall as a relative to GDP, and you won't have a crisis. It's the same in South We have had 1.1% growth rates for 18 years. So that's below population growth. And we haven't cut our cloth. We haven't done in 30 years, we have not done a proper bottom-up analysis of our expenditures. And I can promise you the kind of Warren Buffett compounding of poor expenditure is why we're in this position we're in. Essentially going back to the municipal government thing, those municipal governments and local governments are effectively what Mark was saying. They should be in business rescue. I mean, effectively, that's how they should be. They should be
under
treated.
administration. But I mean, you look at nature to see the inevitability of a compounding error. I saw aerial pictures taken of Hartbeespoort Dam this weekend. They were all over Twitter and whatever it was. And the dam is now almost entirely covered in what's that green thing?
Algae.
Algae. That grows on the surface. Almost in 100% covered. And so the property values there have dropped 60% because you used to be on a lake. Now you're on a marsh, okay? And the inevitable creep is now beyond repair. And that is a manifestation of neglect, okay, or allowing something. And we've got so many streams and trends of informal housing, spreading poverty, imploding universities, currents which are going to inevitably lead to our demise, that you do need to go, enough. Here's the future.
No, it's strange to look back on those early days of South Africa and sort of compare to, what a terrible position we were in, but also how wonderful it was. It's sort of because the potential was there. There wasn't this gloom that seemed to
the
kind
potential's
of like
still there, Tim. No, the potential's still there. If we fix some of the basic, if we start diverting the water towards where it should flow, okay, the capital will pour into South Africa at a rate that we can't even control. If we can demonstrate capacity, expertise, and purpose.
What, do you agree, Colin? Do you think we are doomed, or that we have a chance?
Yeah, I mean, the concept of the tipping point applies. So it's a judgment. Are we past that tipping point, or are we not? I mean, I just happen to believe that, and it goes to, just the disciplined optimism goals of Adrian Gore,
was talking about,
the four principles.
Yes.
I happen to believe that we have some fundamentals that are extremely positive. So, we have incredibly talented people. We have a very resilient business sector. We have dynamic people in South Africa. I mean, the unemployed and what they do, even these guys on the street pushing their carts of waste, these guys are working hard to survive. I mean, that's what they're doing. Given half a chance, the youth employment service, which I'm chairman of, we've done 230,000 internships in 2,000 companies in the last 8 years. It doesn't move the needle on the unemployment rate, but it changes the lives of 230,000 people. That's important. Yeah, my view is
it's a magnificent effort.
My view is,
Colin. I think that's just incredible.
Thank you.
It's just amazing.
So my view is, what is the unlock? That's the critical question of the unlock of all of these positives. The unlock, I think, is South Africa getting real leadership in place. Now, the problem in the middle is what I said at the beginning, is that the two main parties that we have, the ANC and the DA, neither are social democratic non-racial parties. So there's a void in the middle, of our political system. But perhaps the answer is not to create a new party. Perhaps the answer is to create a new calibrated equilibrium between the ANC and the DA. In a way, the two represent the opposites of each other. But if they work together in the middle, perhaps we'll create that kind of dynamic
that's an interesting
leadership in the middle. Yeah. And I do believe, maybe just to conclude on that, is that if a national election was held tomorrow, that you would actually end up probably near a 30-30 government of national unity, maybe 28 on the DA and 34 on the ANC. It'll be far more of an equilibrium, and that'll produce a new leadership that is, I think, quite interesting.
Okay, well, that's a good place to end. Thank you very much, Colin and Mark.
Thanks, Colin. Great to have you here.
Yeah, really, just a thrill. Thanks a mil.
Pleasure.
If you are listening to this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and the like button and the bell and all of that sort of stuff, because then other people find us. It doesn't necessarily mean that you love us, but just do it anyway. And we'll catch you next week. And Colin, we'll drag you onto the program, or we call it a program. We'll drag you onto the thing again if you're willing. Thanks again. Cheers, all.
Thanks, guys.
Pleasure.
Have a good week. And yes, Cape Town.